Good morning. Today we're going to be talking about chapter 13. Welcome back to Child Psychology. I'm going to try to do this. I can't find my glasses. So forgive me if I'm not reading my notes very well, but hope y'all are doing well. Welcome back to chapter 13. Today we're talking about socio-emotional development in middle childhood. What? Where? Oh, thank you. I can see my notes. All right. Socio-emotional development, personality development in late childhood, middle and late childhood. Remember, we're talking about middle childhood. This is the period that we'll call the school years. And the reason I like to call it that is because we look at what is going on in school as being primarily, oh, thank you, by the way, primarily, this is the context of our development. We interact not so much just with our parents and siblings, but we're starting to really have a lot of interaction with other adults and with other children, as we're going to see in this chapter. So let me just point out some things to pay attention to. First of all is the emotional development, the sense of the self, understanding of ourselves. And what does that mean? Um, this is primarily this is primary, it's a primary feature, factor that's important in our interactions with other people is our understanding of ourselves. See, children at this age compare themselves with other children a lot. And the reason for that is to try to define themselves. So we sort of start to define ourselves in comparison with other people. That's important also in emotional relationships for perspective taking and understanding how do other people feel and how do we feel about the same kinds of things. And so I think that would be really important to understand, to be able to understand that something happens and I feel a certain way about it, but maybe you feel a little bit different. That's no less legitimate that you feel the way you feel. So that's important, really, in these social relationships. Just think what it would be like if you couldn't do that, if you really were frustrated because other people didn't always feel exactly how you felt. We probably can find a lot of things that happen in the world that might boil down to that people don't know how to take other perspectives. Something else that's really important that you're going to find is what Erickson called the crisis of industry versus inferiority. And I think this is all just one way of saying that it's important to us that we understand ourselves in terms of other people. This is the age, these are the ages 6 to puberty when we're really pay attention to what other people are doing, saying what other people can do. So if you ask a child in school, who is the person who's best at math, they probably can tell you. Who's the best reader in the class, runs the fastest or whatever, because we're really in tune with ourselves in terms of other people. I think another part of this is to understand identity. This isn't really about identity so much as to understand what does it mean to be who we are. Would be the age at which a lot of people start to define their gender. Now, of course, your gender is always defined some way or another, but this would be the age at which we start to put meaning to that. What does that mean? What does it mean to be a boy? What does it mean to be a girl? What does it mean to be anything else? And not so much what does it mean overall, but what does it mean to us? What does it mean to you? So there is that. So this would be the age of which we're really starting to see what does it mean to other people too, and that would then contribute to the definition, this stereotyping, and maybe that really plays in a lot of our lives, plays into the equation there. Um, I think that something else that's really important, and I have gone out of order, is the development of what in your textbook is called moral judgment development. Um, Kohlberg is the leading, I guess, I don't know, maybe leading would be a little strong. Kohlberg, Gilligan, they were all theorists who talked about how do we develop this idea of our moral judgment. Sometimes when people hear that word moral, your hackles come up, your walls close, or your doors close. I mean, and you don't want to think about it. Well, morality is just a relative thing. It's not actually relative, um, because there are certain behaviors that wherever you go in the world, it's wrong. They're wrong. So that's a joke. It really, people who believe that everything is relative to certain absolutes, like life and death are absolute. If you kill somebody, you kill somebody, they're dead, no matter how you want to slice it. So Kohlberg, among others, studied this idea of how do we get this ability, develop this ability to make decisions about right and wrong. And whether that's right or wrong in terms of something like murder or something like that, or right or wrong as in, what do I want to wear today, blue or green? There's something I prefer there. We're talking about decision making. How do we develop that ability to make decisions? And like I've said earlier, a lot of this is dependent on what other people do. Certainly at this age, we become more sensitive to that. That is not a bad thing. It is important. As Kohlberg showed us, the first stage of moral development is what he called the pre-conventional, and pre-conventional is self-centered, basically. We start off saying, well, I'm going to make this decision based on what is good for me. So if I do this, will it bring about a result that I'll like? And if it doesn't, if it brings about a result I don't like, I won't do it. So see, it's self-centered. And gradually we bring other people more into the picture so that it becomes, well, I'm not going to do this just for myself. I'll do something for you, but it's still a little bit self-centered. Like if I give you a turn, that means that I'll get a turn. So there's the self is still in there. Then we get to the conventional stage, which is the second stage, which is more other-centered, where we'll start to see ourselves as a part of something bigger, like a family or a class or a bunch of friends or peers. That's convention, and that's important because later on in life we'll have to understand ourselves as citizens in a state and a country and all. So it's important to see that we don't always get what we want because we have to follow the rules or follow the laws. That's conventional moral reasoning. And the first stage of this other-centeredness is still a little bit self-centered because we would say we see ourselves as being a citizen of this community, someone to follow the rules of the community, so that people think I'm a good citizen, basically. And then gradually it's less and less about ourselves, and we see, like, I'm just going to do this because this is what will promote law and order, and all that. There's a third stage, however, that Kohlberg talks about called post-conventional, that when you read about it, it may not always be really clear what that is because most people probably never think post-conventionally. And this is where we'll start to think of in terms of law, not laws so much, but the structures of our society, less about just about what most people vote on or whatever. And we'll start to think of like a higher law. Like if you say about somebody, boy, I really think that person is beautiful. Why are they beautiful? Are they beautiful just because they make you feel good about yourself? Because that's pre-conventional. Are they beautiful because everybody says they're beautiful? That's conventional. Maybe there's post-conventional thinking. If you say that person is beautiful because they appeal to this standard of beauty, okay, that's post-conventional reasoning. And you might have some post-conventional reasoning that you employ. If you've ever said about something, well, that's just not fair. Well, why is it not fair? It's not fair because there is a standard, there is an absolute fairness. And so Kohlberg is saying that's usually the one is fairness. Gilligan wrote about compassion. Um, and let's put it in a historical context, and then I'll move on. But in the historical context, you see at times in American history, since we're in America, I use American history, that we had laws. Conventional moral reasoning said separate but equal, said, as long as there is a school for African Americans, then, we don't have to worry about it, right? Until somebody came along and said, well, separate but equal is not fair because everybody should have an opportunity to go to school wherever they want, or drink at whatever fountain, or use the restroom wherever they want. And so that doesn't, even though conventionally that meets the requirements of law and order, it's not fair. It doesn't appeal to the higher absolute standard of fairness. And so that's post-conventional reasoning. Here I'm gonna mess with my glasses again and forget where I put them. Anyway, thank you again. And so that's post-conventional reasoning. So you can kind of mess around with that. What does that mean? Pre-conventional, conventional, post-conventional. Probably all of us at some point or another in our daily lives are going to make decisions based on any one of those three levels. But we don't become the post-conventional person and never do anything pre-conventionally again. Okay, so let's look one last point before we move on. Actually, I need to move on, and that is that a lot of this chapter is contextual, meaning describing school situations. Like I said, it is important to understand how is it that people make friends and keep them. This is an issue. There's an issue of bullying. What does that mean? And one really cool theory that I've been reading about lately is that bullying is trickle down. So schools that have the most bullying are schools in which the principal bullies the teachers bully the students, and then the students bully each other. So bullying is modeled. Most bullies are bullied at some point. Anyway, that's my little 2 cents on bullying. But as you read the chapter, really try to enjoy that context, thinking about your own life and your own history of how you developed socially and emotionally within this context of school. And hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you later for chapter 14.